Chief Elkin Dave here. Welcome to the Circle of Brilliance. Today we're talking about empaths and answer the question, are you an empath? Recently in our discussions with the Oracle, the self-subject matter, this topic of being an empath has come up again. And it's because not so much of all the great qualities that an empath possesses, but because of the unique challenges and dangers an empath faces. And so that's how it kind of got brought up in the discussion on the Oracle, the self. So when do you know that these things you're saying to yourself can actually be causing problems for you? And that. So anyway, I thought, well, I'm going to do a little digging and see what I can come up with. Well, the original article that I put together was some 28 pages long. And what I've been doing in recent days is going through that article and trying to update a little bit and rearrange things, try to make it a little bit more current world. And so that's what I've texted over to everybody. I'll text it over again if anyone's just joining us. And for those that are listening to the recording, this will be up on our website. To access these kinds of documents, you just need to become a member, and being a member is free to get to this sort of stuff. But anyway, here we go. So anyway, I wrote a little bit of an introduction. I'm certainly not going to read the whole thing to you. This is over 10 pages long as it is. But the essence of it is that I really do believe that everyone is a bit of an empath. Forget about empathy and being empathetic. I'm talking about the individual. A person being an empath. So I think everyone possesses a certain degree of these empathic kinds of qualities. But for some people, they're more highly developed. Some people have developed them very intentionally. Others have kind of been, what I'm going to say, gifted with the ability to pick up on other people's emotions, etc., and whatever. So I think all of us have it to a certain degree. How developed it is a different subject. I also do believe that anyone who has any of these empathic kinds of qualities may also find themselves being susceptible to some of the dark side of empathy. And so this first article was really just going over what the characteristics of an empath happen to be. And obviously it's not a comprehensive list, but there's plenty here for people to resonate with. And I talk about the costs of empathy. We'll go through this again in slow motion in just a second. I just want to give you the scope of what this first article is really doing. So what are the costs of empathy? Just one second. So again, the dark side that we have to look at. And then I put together a series of tests for people to put together. Certainly, they're not particularly scientific. This really is more for someone who's curious about the subject or whatever. But you decide when you take it. So you take the test. Are you an empath? What I did was I identified some 15 strengths that an empath would possess. And then I give you a way where you can go about scoring yourself, if you will. And then I give you what the interpretation is. So when it comes to these strengths, do you possess emerging strengths, moderate strengths, profound strengths, or are you a master level empath? And then I said, well, that's all fine and dandy, but there's also a challenge of self-assessment. So to what degree are you experiencing each of the empathic challenges? Using the same scale, but a different 15 sorts of things. And then I can give you a little bit of an interpretation. So do you have minimal challenges, moderate, significant, intense? Where are you on this spectrum of challenges? And so then I say, well, really, if we take these two assessments and lay them out on a matrix, we can look at how these things come into what do I say, work with one another, and whether the work that the two do together is going to end up feeling very positive and enabling, or is it going to show that you need some further development or some help, some awareness, whatever it happens to be. And so this particular article goes through the 16 different combinations. I tried to come up with a clever name for what each would be, but I'm not happy with them. So I'm not married to any of these labels. But I thought it'd be fun to play a little bit with that, at least back in the day. And then we're just going to talk a little bit about empowering the gift, and then it's going to get into another little subject on the second part of it. So in total, I think that there's probably 4, maybe 5 parts to this whole exploration, if you will, of you being an empath. And that's what I wanted to put together for everyone. And so I'd like to go through it a little bit slower pace, but let me first make sure that if you guys have any questions or whatever, questions, thoughts, comments. Is this interesting, or should I just put it back in the archive?
No, but I was going to ask you, T, what do you think about narcissists and their capacity for being an empath?
Well, and this is a very interesting thing. Now, that's actually in part 4 of this kind of series, or this little class, or whatever you want to call it, in being an empath. But one of the things that it does indicate is that if someone is a master empath, or that's what we really want it to be. They really have the skill set. They might even find it very easy to do. So not only do they have the skill set, but the challenge isn't all that particularly high. I imagine some of you are actually hearing that this might overlay on the change grid as well, and lo and behold, it does. But the question becomes, if someone is profoundly skilled at being an empath, but they are in a section of the change grid, in a danger zone on the change grid, how is that going to affect their behaviors? How is it going to affect what they're thinking and doing, et cetera? And as it turns out, the most manipulative, charismatic, evil, whatever word you want to describe that out-grid danger zone, the driven driver, kind of be the narcissistic qualities that come along with that, et cetera. Yeah, there's a real problem, because for you to be that level of a manipulator, you have to be a good empath as well. You have to be able to pick up on what other people are thinking and feeling. Are they aligned, or are they not aligned with you? Are they falling under your spell? Are they being influenced by your force of character? Whatever it happens to be. So I want to start off by saying that whether or not you're, I guess I want to start off being Switzerland. Being an empath is an inherently good, positive trait. At a certain point in time, we're going to look at the darkest possible sides of being an empath and how those are going to exhibit themselves, why you need to be able to recognize them in order to operate in an environment where such people exist, and kind of go from there. But David, to your point, you're absolutely right. Narcissists can be profoundly skilled in empathy, but really, I would say to you that they're profoundly skilled at identifying the emotions that their targeted individuals are experiencing that can be most easily exploited, manipulated, etc. I don't think they're coming at it from a place of compassion, even though in the messages they're delivering to the population they're trying to influence, they may very well say that they're filled with all kinds of empathy and understanding and all that sort of stuff, but it could simply be part of their manipulation. So, was that more than you wanted? So,
No, it explained it pretty well. It's funny because I would think that a narcissist would not have really much empathic quality to them, but that does make sense that they need to be able to be aware, observe, and act upon, those things. So
yeah, and so even if we look at this introductory kind of paragraph as we're trying to provide some sort of a definition for what an empath is, this is what I said. This is long ago, but here we go. So at the heart of human connection lies a fundamental quality, empathy. Every individual possesses it in varying degrees, enabling us to understand and resonate with the emotions and experiences of those around us. Now, so far, I don't have any motive or any moral or any ethical kind of guideposts here. I'm just saying there are plenty of people out there who can understand and resonate with the emotions of people around them. An empath in this vast spectrum of human empathy stands out. They are individuals with heightened attunement to the emotions and energy of people, animals, environments, situations, whatever you want to do. They really tune in. Now, again, I still haven't attached any kind of goodness to this. So they just have the skill. They don't just understand how someone feels, they can, I should put that word in there, they can feel it deeply within themselves. We're going to be talking about a problem with being an empath in our modern world, where we have a tendency to not only understand what everyone's feeling, not only be able to feel it in some sort of a vicarious sort of way, but we can actually feel it so intensely for a sufficiently long and deep period of time that we become those emotions, and those emotions become us. So that's when we were talking a little bit about the whole idea about being a metamorphic empath. You might have heard that on another call. Oh, Tim's chatted something over. WebMD balanced. What is an empath? Yep. And so you'll certainly find variations on this. Many people have written on the subject over time. Now, yeah, often to a point where it becomes difficult to differentiate. So I guess that's what I'm saying, is that we have these characteristics. How we go about applying these qualities, these gifts that we all possess in varying degrees, is what's going to dictate whether what we've done is good, bad, right, wrong, moral, immoral, amoral, whatever it ends up happens to be. But we have these capabilities. All right, so let's take a little look at some of these characteristics of an empath, and see what we can come up with. So they have deep connection with others. So empaths can form profound emotional connections, leading to strong and meaningful relationships. You can have high levels of compassion, very strong intuition. But before I go any further, can you guys already feel that I'm describing an empath in a bright light, an empath in a positive kind of way, the upside of being an empath? Yeah? Yeah. And so they can have a lot of intuition. They can even have healing abilities, because if an empath is able to pick up on others' emotions from a distance, can you imagine what they could be capable of doing the moment they physically enter your energy field? So if they are any kind of a healer, if they are a massage therapist, for example, the moment they touch you, your energy field, their energy field come together. That's not a hocus pocus. That's plain old science. Humans are electrical beings. We're not particularly well insulated. And so our field is going to come in contact with other people's fields. And maybe it's experienced as nothing more than heat, but maybe it's also experienced as a connection, an exchange that's going on with someone's kind of energies. This has been something that's been part of many cultures, and even many religious practices. So the thought about laying on of hands as kind of a healing sort of a thing to do. So certainly people who are going to be involved in any kind of those practices are being, I want to say, guided, if not driven, by whatever they are picking up in terms of that empathic connection with people. So healing abilities, a rich inner world. Yep. If you're an empath, your thoughts are not simply facts and figures. Your world is now filled with the emotions, the feelings, the excitement, the disappointment, etc. And that inner world for many people ends up leading to something being expressed in the external world, like writers who are putting something together, or painters. Any sort of an artist may very well take that rich inner world they have from that whole vivid inner life, those emotions, reflections, dreams, etc., and it now becomes something to an artistic or a contemplative pursuit. They're very perceptive. People that are score high as empaths read cues very well. So very subtle changes in people's facial expressions, body positions, etc., really allow us to gain deeper and deeper understanding about what's going on with that person, etc. Because empaths are really always looking for the truth. Empaths are always trying to feel what's really going on. if an empath can join forces with someone who has an equal skill set, and by the way, again, we're only talking about the positive side of things now, but there is a dark side to this whole empathy thing that's going to get to a different set of motivations where manipulation is going to occur, etc. But if you're in a healthy, balanced relationship with another person with strong empathic abilities, you can end up with really, really strong relationships with people when you meet that like-minded, sensitive person. And what I wrote here was that you can often detect insincerity. So not only can we have authentic relationships if we're sufficiently evolved as empaths, but we along the way are going to be able to detect insincerity, dishonesty, things like that. So we can see what's the opposite of authentic: disingenuous, disauthentic, unauthentic, not authentic, whatever word you want. Natural peacemakers. If you need someone to help you to facilitate an argument, a debate, whatever, well, an empathic person could do that quite well in the right circumstances because they're trying to find that common ground. They're trying to find understand and share with each of the different people in the group what they understand, what they're feeling about what's going on. So it's kind of, trying to get everybody together on that. There could be a problem there as well. If the empath has a dog in the game, a dog in the fight, or whatever that phrase is, well, something else is going on. But now we're talking about when I don't want to give away too much, but there comes a point in time where certain empaths will weaponize those empathic abilities. And when that occurs, now not only are you in trouble, but perhaps the world as we know it could be in trouble. So people that are very empathic appreciate beauty. They like sound and color and all that sorts of things, because each one of those things, sounds, colors, etc., can contain or convey emotion. And so the whole world of empathy is not looking at someone from their logic, their intelligence, their whatever, but saying, what about their sensitivity to the emotions of others and to the value that those emotions offer in terms of bringing information to someone? Thoughts so far? Are we doing all right? Yeah. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, so empaths also are very good advocates and agents for change, because not only do they understand what the practical aspects are of a particular situation or particular change, but they can also feel how other people are responding to it. In basic tension management, we do talk about people wanting to gain or maintain control and not wanting to lose control. And so obviously there's all kinds of feelings that happens around there. But this is also pointing out that empaths can also become the voices of those changes. Now we're talking more about how certain empaths will step into leadership sorts of roles, either deliberately or accidentally, and maybe it's a very grassroots leadership sort of a thing, or maybe it really is a very formal kind of an arrangement. Spiritual depth, obviously, they're connecting to things beyond what our eyes and ears can detect as, what do we say, as reality, as truth, as fact. And that empath has the ability to see beyond, to what could be, not necessarily what is, but to what could be there. And they like to have a sense of purpose. So they figure this gift has not been given to them for no reason. And so empaths do tend to seek out a way to be of service. And that's where you get into these final two: appreciation for the depth of life and teaching others. So that's quite a set, I think, of characteristics of an empath. Now, do we believe that all empaths will have all of these characteristics at the same kind of level? Or are you going like, no, this could be highly individualized to that person based on where they're at and in life, etc. Right? So now, there's also costs to empathy. In fact, with the more empathic someone becomes, particularly for people that are profoundly empathic but lack the skill to moderate or somehow manage those skills. Trouble awaits you. And so these are some of the indicators that you've got a problem with empathy. You need to have some boundaries in order to do this. So constant fatigue, mood swings, feeling overwhelmed. I don't need to give you in-depth descriptions. You know, these may be avoidance of social situations. Again, because if you're picking up on everything that everybody is feeling all around you, do you want to be in a crowd? And so heightened sensitivities, making it even worse, is that if you're in an environment that has a lot of sensory input in other ways, then that's overwhelming you. That can lead to headaches, tummy aches, all sorts of different physical ailments. Obviously, it can disturb your sleeping at a certain point in time, as we certainly talked about being a metamorph, and that you can end up feeling other people's emotions more strongly than your own. And if there are multiple people whose emotions you are feeling more strongly than your own, then you can just feel how overwhelming even the description is. A desire for isolation. And yes, it's true that solitude can be rejuvenating, but it might just be that you need to escape the noise. So overwhelming crowded places, difficulty setting boundaries, maybe a need for reassurance that you're not crazy, even though you may very well be crazy. And so these are both the positive aspects and some of the negative aspects of living your life as an empath. Questions, comments, thoughts about?
I'm thinking the perfect example of the empath is Charles Xavier.
Oh, yeah, yeah, that's great. It's true. Avengers. Yeah, you're absolutely right. Now, tell us why. For those who are not sci-fi people, tell them what.
Well, so Charles Xavier has the ability to hear and control other people's minds. When he was very young, he heard all these voices in his head and he didn't understand where they were coming from. But as he grew, he came to understand that these were other people's voices. So he had great awareness and sensitivity to others
Yeah, and at the same
and
time,
the ability to control them.
exactly. Well, that's above and beyond. Wouldn't that be great if we could
Yeah.
do that? Well, by the way, when we get to the dark side of being an empath, there are certain people who believe that their empathic skills are so powerful that they can literally change your thought, not build up a case and give you information and in one way or another sway you through logic and their personality. They actually just think they can go in and flick a switch in your head and all of a sudden now you're programmed to do that. So there are some there, probably again in the narcissistic kind of category we were talking about earlier.
Another person that would be Star Trek's Diana.
Yeah, Counselor Troy. Now she's a betazoid, and so they are empaths as part of their genetic makeup. And they too present the same issue. I've always been a fan of Star Trek. Maybe that's where this started coming from. Anyway, that what happens if you are a betazoid and you are an extremely powerful empath from the very beginning. You can't change other people's minds, but nevertheless, you can understand that you can respond to them. What happens if you don't develop those and develop the ability to control that noise, control that input? Etc. Obviously, it can lead to some really difficult situations. There was also an episode of Star Trek, perhaps we'll talk about this when we get into the dark side of things, where although this particular empath that the episode is about could not literally change what you were thinking, they had the ability to enter your dreams. And inside of their dreams, they were doing things that were inappropriate at the very least and profoundly criminal at the very worst. And so, again, I think that episode was just trying to give you some sort of an allegory about what happens when people of influence are driven by motives that do not serve anyone particularly well, or it might actually out and out exploit another individual. So we'll definitely be getting to that. And again, I think the reason why I started this article with this taking the test sort of a thing is because I think it's important for anyone who is in a helping profession, like all of us are, to at least know to what degree do we view ourselves as being an empath? Which of these strengths are we exhibiting? And have we learned how to manage them, or are we having troubles as well? So you're going to end up taking two little self-assessments, and at the end of it, you're going to end up with two identifiers, an identifier for your strengths and an identifier for your relationship with the challenges. So I'm going to chat this over to everybody right now. So you all should now have, well, the entire article. Let me know if you've got it. Yep, just got chatted over to everybody. Drag it onto your desktop or double click on it, and you should end up being able to open up
Yep,
this.
got it.
Yep,
I've got it. I've got it.
All right, good, good, good. So it looks like on page 4, bottom of page 4, you're going to find this empath strength self-assessment. Now, if you want to bother printing that out, you can write your score down. You know, I was thinking about trying to create an assessment form where people could like tally up their math, and maybe someday I'll do it. But like I said, I just resurrected this because the topic arose when we were talking about Oracle the Self, and I thought you guys might find it interesting. At the end of today's call, by the way, if you tell me we can go further or let's not go further, I'm again, I'm not married to this whole thing, but I do believe that there's an increasing need for people to learn how to recognize and manage their empathic skills. Okay, so the strengths assessment, you're going to rate each one of these 1 through 5, never, rarely, sometimes, often, always. So first one, I feel an instinctive sense of understanding when someone is experiencing hidden emotion. So if you guys want to be doing a tally, I think you'll have fun while we work our way through this. It doesn't have to take a lot of thought, but again, never, rarely, sometimes, often, always is the scale you're actually going to be using again. So yeah, my heightened intuition often guides me in unpredictable situations. So mull that over for a moment. My heightened intuition often guides me in unpredictable situations. Never, rarely, sometimes, often, always. Next one. I naturally gravitate toward roles that allow me to nurture or heal others. I naturally gravitate towards roles that allow me to nurture or heal others. And again, if we need to revisit the scale, just ask, and I'll do that. Number 4, I find joy in understanding and celebrating the emotional nuances of life. There's a lot there to unpack. I find joy in understanding and celebrating the emotional nuances of life. Number 5, people trust me and open up to me easily due to my empathic nature, or they say empathetic nature, due to my empathetic nature. And by the way, I think the difference between empathy and empathetic is all about, are you projecting it? Are you actually exhibiting it? Or is it simply a quality that is resting inside of you? Perhaps dormant. Okay, next one. I have an ability to perceive and appreciate the subtleties in art, music, and nature. Never, rarely, sometimes, often, always. 5 is your high score. Next one, my insights often provide unique perspectives that others might miss. My insights often provide unique perspectives that others might miss. Where did you end up? Rate that one. Number 8, I can deeply connect with animals, sensing their needs and feelings. Deeply connect with animals, sensing their needs and feelings. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Number 9, my ability to read rooms and atmospheres helps me in navigating social situations. Your ability to read the room, the atmosphere, the vibe, helps in navigating social situations. Number 10, I often resonate with universal emotions, feeling a strong connection to humanity. I often resonate with universal emotions, feeling a strong connection to humanity. Number 11, I'm skilled at mediation due to my ability to understand multiple perspectives. I'm skilled at mediation due to my ability to understand multiple perspectives. Okay, number 12, I'm often the go-to person for friends and family seeking emotional support. Go-to person. Is Brian on the call? He's going to give himself a 5 for that one. Okay, I'm often the go-to person. Number 13, I can easily perceive genuine versus inauthentic emotions in people. I can easily perceive genuine versus inauthentic emotions in people. Number 14, my ability to empathize aids in fostering deep and meaningful relationships. My ability to empathize aids in fostering deep and meaningful relationships. And finally, I find it natural to reflect and understand my own emotional journey. Natural to reflect and understand my own emotional journey. Now, if you've been doing this, you can add up your score, and I'll be quiet for 30 seconds while you do that. And what's going to be important is that you know which of the following 4 ranges you fall between. And so this is the interpretation. If you scored between 15 and 30, that means you basically gave well, you have no choice but to give everything at least a 1. So never. So you would be somewhere between never and giving everything a 2, rarely. So between never and rarely. Emerging strengths, your empathic abilities are in their early stages. You show signs of the various strengths inherent to empaths, but these may not be consistently prominent in your day-to-day life. So continue to explore and nurture these gifts and consider seeking guidance to further enhance them, assuming you want to. There's a certain joy in being totally oblivious to what other people are feeling. So there you go. If your score is between 31 and 45, those are moderate strengths. You possess a moderate range of empathic strengths, indicating a solid connection to the emotional world around you. By recognizing and cultivating these abilities, you can better harness them in various aspects of your life. Moderate. Between 46 and 60, these are profound strengths. Your score reflects a deep and ingrained empathic strength. The gifts are naturally integrated into your interactions, decision-making, and experiences. So continue to honor and refine these abilities to ensure you fully realize your potential. And then the last one, you have to give pretty much, no, I think mathematically, you have to give everything, no, 1 or more things a 5, and everything else would have to have a 4 for that math to work out, or who knows how skewed your actual scatter pattern is. But to be a master empath, your empathic abilities are exceptional. Your strengths in this area are dominant, playing a significant role in your interactions and perceptions. Embracing and channeling these gifts is key to achieving harmony and balance in your life. Obviously, the higher your score, the more of a master empath you are likely to be. So hopefully 1 or more of you actually did a tally as we went our way through this. So did you determine that you are an emerging, a moderate, a profound, or a master empath?
Profound.
Profound. So
Yeah, I'm kind of in the lower side of profound.
lower side of profound. Okay.
Yeah, I
great.
think I tortured 50.
Okay, that's great. And so, that's really great. And this is what I think. If we're going to be in any kind of a helping sort of a profession, or honestly, if you just wanted to be good at getting along with people and having nice families and coworkers and friends, it'd be nice for you to score up here at the profound range of things. You guys agree with that? Thoughts about that?
Absolutely. And from an HR standpoint, again, that points to that line in the job descriptions when we talk about competencies for various positions. It
Mhm.
often says that we must have good interpersonal skills.
That's right. That's right. And even if you go back to what we were talking about for emotional intelligence, I think a great deal of these empathic skills are also skills that we would associate with someone who's got good emotional intelligence, who's got good resilience, etc. So
Yes.
I think it
Yes.
serves us in many, many ways. Now, most of the things that I stumbled across when it comes to empathy emphasize this side of things, the strengths, and to the degree to which you possess the strengths. And some of them go no further. They don't even introduce any kind of a warning to anyone. But, we developed the change grid. We know that there's a full range of possibilities, and that means there's the possibility of someone being a very, very profound or master empath, but still be confronted by so many of the challenges that it's going to affect their ability to use this gift in any meaningful kind of way. And so I just kind of felt that only looking at the positive aspect, the strength side of things, wasn't going to be as useful if I wanted to provide any kind of coaching or developmental sorts of services to a population of empaths. And by the way, maybe it's still true today, but back in the late 1980s, the early 1990s, I'll tell you, if you had a program on how to become a master empath, you could probably have filled those classes. So people wanted to do this. It was very timely. Maybe it still is today. Maybe we use different words for it, but there you go. All
I
right.
think
So,
this would be a great assessment for sales organizations.
well, great. Yeah. Now, again, it's not scientific. I didn't do anything to validate any of this. This is just, I thought, one of those kind of fun ways of getting a little bit closer to what your personal truth happens to be. So, yeah, I agree. And by the way, feel free to use this. I mean, I sent you guys the article. You're certainly welcome to do with it whatever you'd like. But yeah, but the point is going to be that we can't just look at strengths. We also have to understand the degree to which someone is being impacted by the challenges side of things as well. And
Hey,
so,
can I ask you a quick question?
sure.
What was that quality or that we talked about last time, that something burger
Oh, the Dunning-Kruger effect.
Dunning-Kruger effect? Would that come into play here with people filling out this assessment?
I certainly think that if someone has decided that they want to be an empath, they're going to score themselves higher on every single one of these. But those are the people that are trying to game the system, if you will, or trying to, they also have to know that they're lying. And at a certain point in time, we'll be talking about empaths who aren't even true to themselves. They aren't even all that good, or they've become so good at understanding others, they no longer are good at understanding themselves. And that's when we'll be bringing in the Dunning-Kruger idea, or the narcissist. I mean, can you imagine if you're a narcissist and for whatever reason you think that being an empath is something to be bragging about or makes you distinct and unusual? Why do I think you're going to score a 75 on this? So I think you're absolutely right. Like anything else, and obviously central to the change grid is that you have to go into it with a willingness to be honest, because the change grid is going to reflect back to you whatever you put in. And if you're making the assessment based on distortions, generalizations, outright lies, well, then that is going to tell you what the accuracy of the assessment is going to be. It'll be exceptionally telling you what you thought what you hope you were, or what you would like to be. But yeah. There it is. Okay, so let's take a look at the challenges side of things. Maybe I can go through this a little bit faster. I love that you guys are doing the scores because I think you're going to walk away with something really important. Just again, going back to the first part, just know which of these four you are: emerging, moderate, profound, or master. Okay, now we get to the challenges. Same thing, never, rarely, sometimes, often, always, but we're going to be looking at these challenges. So number one, I feel emotionally exhausted after spending time in crowded or chaotic environments. Personally, I'm going to give myself a 5 for that. It's absolutely true. I'm always that way. Number two, I sometimes lose my sense of self when surrounded by strong personalities. All right. Don't know if I'm going to disclose my, I didn't even do a score for the first one. I don't even know. Number three, I often find it hard to set personal boundaries, leading to being taken advantage of. And by the way, just as a side note, ultimately, I would hope that you guys are going to use these insights to perhaps be able to provide a kind of coaching to a kind of client you're already working with. You're going to know by the end of this little series, assuming we work our way through it, that a great many of the executives that you are working with have profoundly developed empathic skills. However, they are suffering from so many of these challenges that it ends up being maybe even a moment where intervention is necessary. So even if you're going like, well, I never feel that way, do you know people who find it so hard to set personal boundaries that they're routinely being taken advantage of? You know, so kind of go like, oh no, maybe not me, but others for sure. Number four, my sensitivity makes it difficult for me to watch violent or sad news stories. Very interesting. Okay, it's like I'm visiting this. Well, I am. I'm visiting this again for the first time in 20 plus years. Here we go. All right, number 5. I tend to internalize criticism or negative feedback deeply. I can't wait to hear you guys' ratings. Okay, number 6. Overwhelming emotions sometimes cause me physical discomfort or symptoms. Number 7, I might avoid confrontations to keep the peace, even if it's detrimental to me. Number 8, I occasionally absorb others' emotions, making it hard to differentiate them from my own. Number 9, I often feel drained or fatigued even when not involved in strenuous activities. Number 10, I sometimes become the emotional dump as people offload their problems onto me. Number 11, I find it difficult to protect myself from negative energies or vibes. Number 12, I tend to overextend myself in an effort to help or heal others. I tend to overextend myself in an effort to help or heal others. Number 13, I occasionally feel isolated or misunderstood due to my heightened sensitivity. All right. Number 14, I might neglect my own needs, prioritizing others' well-being over mine. Okay. And intense or conflicting emotions can cause confusion or indecision for me. All right. And so again, you want to tally up your score so you can see which of these 4 groupings you fall into. 15 to 30, minimal challenges. 31 to 45. So as soon as you guys have your tallies done, let me know what your score is, and maybe we can do it.
I'm moderate, T.
Moderate. Okay, so
Yeah.
you encounter a fair range of empathic challenges, but likely not in an overwhelming capacity. It's crucial to acknowledge these challenges and develop strengths to manage them, ensuring that they don't impede with your overall well-being. Just basically it's notice them before they get any worse,
Right.
do whatever you can do to do that. Who else scored where?
50.
Linda got 50. Significant challenges. Your score indicates a high frequency of challenges associated with empathic abilities. This might mean you often feel overwhelmed or drained. Seeking support, guidance, or tools to navigate these challenges can be highly beneficial. I also know that Linda may find herself in these situations, but in her next move, she knows she's got the skill set to address it. And so we talked a little bit about that yesterday when you're being exposed to whatever ick is going on. And while you can acknowledge and resonate with the ick, you seem very good at quickly getting yourself out of that. And so obviously, sooner or later, this program has got to really be about how do you develop your coping mechanisms for these challenges, and how do you develop your talents to be able to be even better at being.
And that's what I was just going to say, is just by attending these calls with everyone, I have learned certain skills to be able to handle some of these challenges. And that's why some of my scores were low and some were high. 5, couple twos,
Yeah, because it doesn't need to be a big giveaway at this point in the training. This was designed to be a standalone thing for empaths, but sooner or later you have to know I connected it to the change grid. And so there is detailed activity lists for developing your skills, dealing with the challenges, and there's all these different things about, well, what if you're here on the grid? How does that affect your ability to perform as an empath? Or what if you're over here, whatever the case may be, and where should you really be, and how are you going to get yourself to that particular spot, etc. So it all ends up getting integrated. Okay, who else scored what? All right, I'll share. I scored an 18. So
I'm sorry, T. I was a 50. I'm sorry. I was trying
okay,
to.
you're 50. Okay, so with Linda as well. Now, mind you, 50, you're still at the low end of the significant challenges. And so that just means got to plug in the solutions we have and do there. I wish Brian was on the call. I'd love to know what his score was going to be. I'm glad I didn't hear anybody who's up in intense challenges. So the challenges you face due to your empathic nature are profound. They may often impact your daily life, relationships, and mental well-being. It's imperative to seek resources, support, and strategies to protect and care for yourself, ensuring a healthier balance between your gifts and potential pitfalls. So it's great that you guys didn't score in that high level. For me, a lot of them were just plain ones. Some of these things I simply don't feel at all. And a couple of them I felt a little bit, but not all that much. And again, I could just be delusional, but there you are. All right. So interesting so far. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So now
very interesting.
You got to put those two things together. So what I want you to kind of recognize that the score isn't so much what you're going to need to know now. You need to know what your label was. So when it comes to strengths, were you emerging, moderate, profound strengths, or are you master empath? So lock that in because you're going to need that in just a jiffy. And then the second thing is, are your challenges minimal, moderate, significant, or intense? Now, once you've got those two labels in mind, this is what I wanted you to look at, which is the empath matrix. So depending on what your combination happens to be, I'm hoping I can give you a little bit of a glimpse into how you are actually carrying yourself, using your gifts, etc. And there's a lot. We're not going to go through all 16 of them, but I want to go over for what you guys scored for yourself. So anyone want to tell me what your two were?
Profound strength, moderate challenges.
Okay, so profound strengths, they're in order based on, so profound strengths, moderate challenges. And again, I tried to come up with something clever, but if you can come up with something better. I'm fine with all that. But an enlightened guardian, because your strengths are so strong, I thought, well, you know what should be going on? And those moderate challenges really do put you a bit on guard. So your empathy radiates protecting and nurturing, but guarding others occasionally leaves you exposed. Striking a balance between being an emotional guardian and self-care is your current chapter. Even the enlightened seek reaffirmation and techniques to sharpen their intuition. Boy, did I write that for a new age or audience or what? Oh, sometimes you just have to shake your head and go, all right, that's fine. If I'd gone a totally different direction, I could have monetized this in a major way. Okay, who else? What combination do you have?
Profound significance.
So you got profound and significant. Ooh, profound strengths, but significant challenges. A guided luminary. Your light shines bright, often becoming a guidepost for others. Yet shadows occasionally cloud this luminance. I must have been stoned when I wrote this. Understanding the nature of these shadows, be they past experiences or absorbed energies, will ensure your light remains undimmed. I'm telling you, I need to create greeting cards. Oh, isn't that outrageous? Outrageous. Okay, who else? Tim, what did you
Write fortune cookies, T.
Maybe I should do that. Yeah, I need a radiant phoenix. Who's a radiant phoenix? Um, okay, so Tim, Edie, you guys want to what you got?
Profound strength and significant challenges.
All right, so we talked about that's the same for oh, that's right. You both scored well, yeah. You scored 50 on the one, right. So guided luminary. This is really what it's all about. And hopefully, as silly as some of these descriptions might be, they resonate with you. That you realize that when you really are out there living your life, if my little assessments of any usefulness at all, it should be there to let you know that you really are displaying these strengths and integrating these strengths. You really are a very skilled empath. And maybe it's the challenges are there because you've chosen to deploy these strengths in situations or environments that are inherently challenging in these terms. Does that resonate at all with either of you? Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds right.
All right, we'll get into it more detail when we get into how to fix all this kind of stuff. Edie, what'd you end up with here?
You know what? I was multitasking and I didn't take it, but I was high on just everything. I'm just a mess. I'm a mess.
Right.
I put people above. I get in trouble. It backfires. And I know I always say, don't let your greatest strength be your weakness.
Very
and
good.
I think I do that. That is a strength, but it's so extreme that it's a weakness, and I allow myself to get taken. I don't set the boundaries. I'm better. But
well, then let's take a look at this. Let's look at the extreme and see if this resonates with you. A master empath. So again, I was at 61 or higher, I think. Yeah, master empath with intense challenges. So both scales were extreme. Is that what you were saying, Edie?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, and maybe it's this one, but so let's read these top few. So the master empath, the transcendent victor. At this pinnacle, your strengths are monumental, yet so are the challenges. These intense trials, whether external conflicts or internal storms, are gateways to transcendence. Seeking timeless wisdom ensures every challenge becomes a bridge to even loftier realms. Oh my goodness. Now, if the challenges
like it.
really, see, I could have really gone after that whole new age population, I think. Anyway, that wasn't where my head was. It isn't where the business went. Anywho, but you could also be a master empath, and let's reduce the challenges a little bit just at the significant level, a noble challenger. So standing atop the empathic hierarchy, you face challenges worthy of your stature. These are not mere disturbances, but profound lessons, pushing for higher ascendance. Embracing them with guidance refines your noble stance. Oh, very nice. Now, I think though, if we back up both of those out of the master and the intense levels, we would end up where I think one step beyond where Linda and Tim plotted. You'd be profound strengths, but intense challenges. No, intense, significant. Yeah, radiant phoenix. All right. So anyway, my point with all this is to hopefully just have you guys all recognize that in this big world of empaths, you do fit in a particular place based on the degree to which you have honed your skills and the degree to which you've learned to manage the challenges.
Mhm.
The best place for someone to be on this whole matrix is right here, a master empath with minimal challenges. The ascendant maestro. What was I thinking? The ascendant maestro. Mastery has graced you with an orchestration of empathy, each note played with precision. While challenges are minimal, there's always a higher symphony to achieve. I would change that to right. Deepening this mastery can result in an even richer, harmonious connection with the world. So that would really be if you had your skills honed to perfection and you had virtually no challenges that you were up against, you would be in that category.
So those sound all so positive. So I think what's coming, the negatives.
Yeah. Yeah, ultimately, what we're going to be doing, and this will be the next time around, is for you guys to really be able to turn this into some sort of a development plan for yourself, assuming you're even, interested in this. How do you go about developing that? So if I said, how does someone develop empathy? That's the next question. And how does someone develop, I guess is still the right word, but develop ways of addressing or minimizing those challenges? What are the skill sets involved in the development of both of these sets of or dealing with each other?
Recording in progress.
Yes. Okay, just a second. I'm hearing echo. Just a second. Yeah. Okay, yeah. Okay, so so we'll definitely be doing that because we have to turn this into developmental plan. I also want to then say to you guys, if you know where you're at in this empathy matrix, and you've kind of made peace with where you are on the empathy matrix, then how does the level of energy of a given situation carries affect your ability? So let's say, for example, you are this ascendant maestro, all right, you're this master empath with minimal challenges. I suspect you may very well be different if you find yourself in a profoundly upgrid situation or in a profoundly downgrid situation, outgrid or ingrid, as whatever you have decided, move around on the change grid based on the situation you happen to find yourself in. Does that impact your performance? And if it does, in what ways? And then, of course, is there a way for you to counterbalance that? Yeah, all right, anyway, that's what I wanted to cover on today's call. Oh, there's a little closing kind of thing that just says, here are some of the things that you can do to really celebrate being an empath. I wanted to leave it all on a positive note, so we need to ultimately empower the empaths to do whatever it is that's going on. Yeah, so that's what some of that is. Anyway, so I've chatted this over to all of you. Feel free to read it over, come up with questions. Happy to answer them for you. And next time around, we're going to be talking about the things I've just outlined. And we're also going to be talking about why the center of the change grid is such an important place for whatever you happen to be to live on the change grid.
So T, I think the dominant energy here is going to be amiable, and the question for me becomes, how do we maneuver that into greater productivity?
It's interesting that you brought that up. Let me slide something into the screen for just a second. Because, of course, anytime we want to perform the overlay of any model on the change grid, one of the things we have to decide is, does it stretch top to bottom, edge to edge? Does it live in a particular quadrant that's already been established? Does it exist somewhere else? What's really going on? And I think that what we're going to basically do, I predict, and by the way, I haven't done this yet, is I wonder if the world of empathy exists inside of this centered quadrant, if you will. So kind of inside the green circle. Is that where empathy is at its best? And then as we step out of that particular area, what changes then? And so, Tim, to your point, inside of this great little area to be, we've got a driven amiable and an amiable driver. So there's kind of a balance in those two. Similarly, we have an analytical expressive and an expressive analytical. So they would be balancing out as well. And I think that resonates very much with what the center of the change grid would be about. But to take your point to a place where you might encounter clients that you need to help. What happens if that amiable, scratch that, what happens if that empath ends up being pulled into a very in-grid situation, or little by little, they're conditioned to be further and further in-grid? Then what happens? We also have upgrade, outgrid, downgrid to be looking at. But you get the idea? We got to really figure out, how does this ultimately overlay, and what does that really mean? What value does it have? Again, as my closing comment, when I first put this together, I obviously found the topic interesting and put together a lot of, I think, I don't know, angles or exercises, insights that I thought a certain population would find engaging with any luck at all. But I never pursued it. So as we work our way through a lot of this material, I'm hoping that you guys find this as being a useful self-coaching experience when it comes to your empathy and your utilization of the empathic skills that you possess. So that's where I'm at on the whole thing. If you guys would like me to continue with this topic, I'm happy to do so. And if you'd like to move on, I'll do that as well. No hurt feelings. Okay, thoughts? Continue.
I think it's significant, T, because research has shown that there's a significant part of the workforce that are identifying as introvert personality types who probably relate and connect very much with this conversation on empathy.
Yep. I certainly believe that. And I am going to text or chat one more thing over to you guys, assuming I can find it. Maybe I can, maybe I can't. But oddly enough, you know how lots of things that are serendipitous happen in the world. So this morning we're getting ready for this call, and Linda receives an email from a list we're on about Truity. How many of you subscribe to Truity? Anybody? Truity.com? Well, look at what Truity sent out from their True You journal. What is a dark empath, and what makes them so dangerous? And as I read through this, I'm telling you, they're talking about an empath who's in the outgrid danger zone, a profound narcissist, and what it is they know or not know. And oddly enough, I had referred to that as a dark empath before, because I was talking about darkness versus light and heat versus cold. So are you a dark, hot empath, a dark, cold empath? And again, we're talking about when things go awry, you'd be outside of the red circle in any of those. Because I do believe our world is filled with dark empaths. And dark empaths have their own motivations. And if we're not aware and careful, we will become their victims. And so let me just chat this over to you guys. I saved it out as a PDF file. So you might find that better than actually going to their website. And yeah, okay. So there you go. I just chatted over everyone. What is a dark empath? Let me know if you guys have that. Drag it to your desktop. I don't want to end the call and have you unable to get to that. So yeah, that'll be something we'll also be talking about as we explore darkness versus light and heat versus cold, to look at these different extremes. Okay, other comments, thoughts, questions? Interesting?
No, great session. Yeah.
All right. Okay, good. So thanks everybody for joining in. We will pick up where we left off next time. So feel free to share what I've sent over to you with others. So yeah, okay. Thanks everybody. Bye for now.
Thanks,
you.
everybody. Thanks, T.
Have a great day.
To the